What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another BMW episode. So we are pushing very hard. In the last episode I did say that I want to race this car for the last race of this year at least one more time. I'm pushing very hard to get this thing done. I've wrapped up the cylinder head. I've sent it off to KWT Engineering in King Williamstown. Sean Gradwell's busy with it. They're making really good progress. But while we wait, there's a couple of things we're going to do. And in this episode, we're actually going to be working on some weight reduction. I'm going to be taking some weight out of the car in different areas, and I'm going to explain why now.
I'm Jacques from SSBB Builds. I've been racing front-wheel drive for over 8 years. I won a championship, came runner-up in 2 others. I'm building this BMW to find out what it's like to be involved with rear-wheel drive cars and the classic BMW heritage. Join me on this discovery as I share my passion. An object that is turning or rotating around an axis, like a wheel or a flywheel or something like that, has something called inertia. Inertia is calculated by the mass multiplied by the radius of gyration. We're getting real geeky now. Radius of gyration basically is this radius. So nothing in the middle, but whatever radius this is, the distance from there to the outside. So if something has a high inertia, that means it has a high mass multiplied by obviously the distance or that radius of gyration. So if the mass is further out, it's got a higher inertia. The reason a lightened flywheel works is because it is now mass that you have to accelerate and then decelerate. If a flywheel carries or has a lot of inertia, the flywheel can then do work. There's various calculations on this, but this is why standard road cars have heavy flywheels, because if you accelerate and you get up to a certain speed, the flywheel carries momentum, if you will, and it helps push the car along. It doesn't create torque, it has the ability to do work. Now if you're driving along and you get to a hill, the flywheel can continue to rotate because of its mass, and that inertia will allow work to be done through the drivetrain, the wheel, and it'll help carry the momentum up the hill. But now the problem with that in a motorsport environment is that you have to accelerate and decelerate that mass. Sorry, the higher the mass and the radius of gyration, the higher the inertia the flywheel has. But also you have to accelerate that mass and decelerate. So it'll take a longer time to accelerate and you won't achieve as high a top speed, let's say, down the main straight as you would without a heavy flywheel. So why are we talking about flywheels when we're going to do some weight reduction? Well, the same concept applies. In motorsport, there's something that they refer to as the polar moment of inertia. Now, the polar moment of inertia is a similar type concept, only it doesn't deal with a spinning object. We're looking more at an object that basically works around different axes. So without going into too much detail, let me just explain what that is. If you take this hammer and you look at its axis, its X and its Y axis, it now has this giant weight on the back of it. Okay, so now if you have to turn this thing, you will see that obviously the heavy side is going to create momentum that's going to push it, and you're going to have to then, so if I swing this hammer, it obviously has the ability and the kinetic energy to do work. If I swing it, it takes a certain amount of energy to push it forward, but it also takes a certain amount of energy to slow it down. So a similar concept applies to the car. That's what we call the polar moment of inertia. So if you take a certain weight and you move it forward, further out from the center of the car, you put the mass, the more difficult it's going to be to rotate the car and turn the car. You often hear us talk about the car rotated nicely, especially with front wheel drive on the rear end, or getting on the power, the car rotates nicely, or it doesn't rotate, it's a bit lazy. What we don't want is we don't want a situation where the car is behaving unexpectedly, and we want the car to be nimble and to be able to turn and react to our inputs. So if you have more weight outside of the center line of the vehicle or the center of mass, then
it's going to require energy to rotate the vehicle center line around that center and then bring it back as well. So how that will affect the car is it'll be a bit lazy to initially turn, and then once you finish turning, the car's going to have more momentum and it's going to want to carry on turning, where you don't want that, especially if you get into a slide. You want to be able to correct the slide and bring it back. You want the car to be able to turn, respond and come back, or turn, respond and stay there till you get to the exit of the corner. So having more mass outside of the center line will affect that. Why is this important? Well, this is going to affect what we do today. If you want to see some more of this kind of content, please consider subscribing. Just click on the subscribe button, hit the bell, and you're good to go. These E36 bumpers are notorious for being super heavy. Their weight is carried for the most part in the stiffener. Now this stiffener is not a separate stiffener, it's linked to the bumper, so it's molded to the bumper. Now that gives us a lot of opportunity, but what it does do in its standard trim is it is putting the weight, all of that weight, on the extremity of the car, so right ahead of the front wheels. So if you think about the Audis and how nose heavy the Audis were, all of that weight is right on the front of the car, which you don't want. It increases the weight ahead of the center of mass, so we don't want that. What we do want to do now, and what we're going to do now, is basically take a bunch of weight out of this. What I'm going to do first of all is we're going to weigh this bumper and see what are we looking at in terms of weight. Let's get these out. These are my corner weight scales. First things first, it's standing. 8 kilograms. 8 kilograms doesn't sound like much, but 8 kilograms for a piece of plastic seems like a lot. So there you can see 8 kilograms, and the weight is in this stiffener. So how are we going to get the weight out of this stiffener? You can see how thick it is. So now the advantage we have is that we have quite a lot of real estate to deal with. Alright, so I went down to the local hardware and got a cheap and cheerful hole saw set. This is a local brand, and it's nothing spectacular, but it's good enough to drill through plastic. So the goal is to drill a bunch of holes, basically evenly spaced all around the top and then all around the bottom. Now drilling through the bottom, I'm not sure how well we're going to be able to get to this area, what the access is going to be like. Probably have to come in from the back end, but let's see. I mean, 8 kilos, what's the worst that could happen? So let's see which one we're going to be able to work with. I look at this one. This looks like it's going to give us great coverage. Now we don't want to hack the whole thing to pieces. We still want some rigidity, but we want to take a bunch of weight out, because then otherwise I could have just taken the jigsaw, cut the whole piece off. That might even be an option. Maybe that's an option. Okay, so after careful review, I think I'm just going to take the hacksaw, the jigsaw, and cut like this along this line. I don't really see why not, because yes, this stiffener offers rigidity. It's also there for if you bump, but it does offer a lot of weight as well. So on this side, so it's not going to compromise, let's say, the integrity of the bumper anyway by taking this fat lip off. This blade is blunt. Wow, made the end of that blunt straight away. Okay, so we know where this is going. Alright, plan B. A lot of smoke. So I don't know if this has asbestos in it. Alright, so we're learning together. So inside was not a good idea. I was just concerned about the dust, but we're making good progress here. So we're going to continue, but outside. Wow, that's a lot of dust, but we're getting there. Wow. Look at that. There we go. Managed to, yes, it is a type of fiberglass. So there we go. Cut this piece off, and these two pieces. And they come from at the top here and then over here. Now I didn't take from the middle because there's some clips that hold on some of the bumper there, so I've left those pieces on. So we can go and weigh this thing now, see what it weighs, but I just want to first wipe it down. Didn't think I was going to be doing fiberglass work today. There we go. That already is significantly lighter. I can feel. Let's see what it says. So it was 8 kilograms to start with. 7 kilograms. So we've taken out 1 kilogram. Well, still 1 kilogram. Still worth doing, I think. It affects the overall weight. Still worth doing. So what we have to do now, I'm not going to really stuff around with this too much more, is we have to do the rear bumper, but I need to take it off first. Okay. One. This is how we struggle. This is how we struggle. Okay, now this rear bumper is a lot more complex. It also has these mounting tubes in it. Now these can be changed, they're still original. So we'll look at modifying those in the future or not. I mean, wow, that is 14 kilograms, 1-4. Now this has a massive stiffener element in here, and I don't know if we're going to be able to get that out. This is quite a durable and very, very thick fiberglass insert, so I don't think these are going to cut it. So we'll come back tomorrow, like I said, trim that piece out with the grinder and see where we get to. Alright, it is the next day here. So what I've been thinking is that this is going to take quite a bit of work to do it right, and I don't want to rush the job and not do it right. So I'm a bit pressed for time this week in what I can do and what I can't do. So what I'm going to do is just kind of put this back, set it aside. I need to clean the engine bay of this car for when the motor goes back in. Something else we're going to do is take the sump off of that M52, and because those two cotters are stuck in the bottom of the sump. So I think what I'll do first is pull the sump off of that motor, and then we will jump onto cleaning the engine bay on this car. So we're going to put this on pause for now. It's not going to make a big difference on the handling, but it will be a future project of ours. So let's get to the sump. Alright, so the first thing we must do is we need to take off this power steering pump. Okay, not too bad actually. The sump is looking pretty clean, which is to be expected. There's a bit of assembly lube residue here. For the most part, it's nice and clean. So what we need to do is we need to now fish out whatever's in the bottom of that sump. So let's have a look. Nothing yet. Those cotters are not in here. It kind of does beg the question, where did they go? Must be stuck in the head or something. Let's turn it over now. Water is going to come flying out here. On the face of it, looks good. And it should be fine. There were no issues down here. Can't see too much, but I'm not going to take this stuff apart. This is all good. So here you can see the oil pump, lock wire is still on, the motor. And so, yeah, everything else looks good. I think what we're going to do is we're going to wrap that up for now. We'll let the sump drain out, and then basically, like I say, wrap that up, and then we'll get started on cleaning the engine bay. The reason I'm cleaning the engine bay is because I'm expecting the cylinder head to come back pretty soon, and when it does, we need to kind of get a hurry up and get this thing together so we can get it back in the car, because we still need to do a couple of things. That is, you know, install those new coils, get the wiring for that sorted out, get the new injectors installed and get it running with this new setup, then take it to the dyno, re-dyno, because the injectors are going to be different and everything. And then just make sure we kind of on the same power level before that race and eliminate all the variables, because you don't want to spend all that money, go there, and then the same thing happens. And it's part of it. We haven't tested this car too much, but yeah, if we can at least get it ready, give us some time. So that's the goal. Let's open up this garage. We'll pull the nose out as far as we can. I am also only one person here, so I need to just do what I can. I can't let it roll down too much because there's a slope, but let's get it out. We'll spray it up with some cleaning detergent and then wash it off, so it's all nice and clean for when the engine comes. So I'm taping up the power steering pump. This is about the best we're going to do. Let's pull the handbrake up. Just trying to clean everything out from inside to out. Much better. Alright, so I'm sitting in the engine bay. That's pretty much all we're going to be able to do for this episode. At least we've cleaned the engine bay, so it's ready for the engine to go back in. We've done that mod on the bumper, so taken a couple of kilos out there, but it's not going to really make too much difference. But on a race car, every single little bit helps, and you have to start somewhere. Obviously, we're not super competitive with this car. The goal of this car is just to really have fun. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the next race, 18 November with the BMW guys. So we just need to get all the stuff back, get it back in, get the coils in, the injectors in, get it running, get it to the dyno, make sure everything's fine. Hopefully we can get a practice in. There is a practice day on the Friday, and then the race is on the Saturday. So we're really I'm trying to just prepare everything for when the motor is ready to go back in. So that's unfortunately going to be it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for supporting us. And hopefully we can make this race. Just cross fingers, everything goes well. It'll be a nice end to the season if we can actually drive this car here in South Africa. So thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you guys next time. Ciao.